And on and on and on it went. I say that this the end of every jam every week. Hey folks, how you doing? It's Nick Jennison, the Monday Guitar Show. We're doing the thing that we do on Mondays, which is hang out and talk about the guitar. And I am pleased to report, after last week's health debacle, I am back in what can sort of be called good health. I've still got a little bit of a cough going on, so as if by magic, it reappeared, but I don't feel like warmed up, I don't know, human remains right now, so that's good, right? Anyway, listen, thanks for joining us. Today, we are continuing on what is a series for this month on instant wins, little things that you can do to improve your guitar playing instantaneously. And this fits with our objective of making you a slightly better guitar player when you leave than you were when you arrived. And today we are discussing how to play more musical solos. Now, that's quite an interesting and nebulous term. We'll get into what we mean by more musical and also kind of, define some terms, give you some guidelines, some parameters you can work within, and ultimately some actionable things that you can actually do today to become a more musical guitar player. Now, this is not going to be a case of learning more scale shapes. Now, you guys know that I am not one of these let's call them online guitar gurus who will say to you, bro, stop playing scales. Legitimately, like, boils my, well, I won't say what it boils, but it boils parts of me when people come out with nonsense like that. I'm very much not of the anti-intellectual guitar crowd. However, what we have noticed from speaking to members at licklibrary.com, who of course are bringing you today's stream, go to licklibrary.com for more lessons, etc. We've noticed that members do come to us with this notion, let's say, and we will call it a notion, that by learning more scales, by having more colors in their palette, by having more tools in the toolbox, it'll make them a more musical guitar player, and that is often not necessarily the case. Now, we'll get more into the weeds of that in just a second. Before we do that, we're going to say some hellos, but also want to take a second and remind you that we've got a new course that is available for free. Link is down below. It's going to be for a limited amount of time, so if you're watching this live, make sure you hit the link down below. Excuse me a second, a bit of cough. I did say I still had a cough. This is a course on 5-minute guitar fixes. It's very much in the spirit of the stream. It's really, really good stuff. You want this in your life. So go check that out at your earliest convenience once this stream is done. We're going to say some hellos to all of our viewers, and then we'll get stuck into the meat of today's lesson. We're going to start with Timothy Appling, who's first through the house. Says, Nick's lessons, bless you. That's really kind. Are the cure for boring solos. My solos have been basically the same for 40 years. Not that they were bad or but outdated, in my opinion. Interesting. I like Nick's shred capabilities. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. We'll talk a little bit about that, but thank you for the lovely compliments. That's really sweet. Marcine is in the house. Response Audio's here. I am indeed having a great Monday. Every Monday is a great Monday because I get to hang out with you guys and talk about the guitar. It's always a highlight. PJ is here. I get the feeling it's not this. It may well be me referring to the thumbnail now. Okay, it is a little bit algorithm baity, is that thumbnail. Of like, the scale shapes, it's not this. It was my idea, right? I was like, look, just do this really like baity thumbnail and we'll see where it gets us. Because we'd like to get this to as many guitar players as we possibly can. By the way, if you haven't done so already, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, otherwise I'll be forced to show you my unusually straight thumb. Once again, I do have very straight thumbs. It's a weird thing. Response Audio says, it's not you, it's me relationship with scales, for sure. Larry Warren is in the house. Great to see you. We've got some comments about the time change. Yes, indeed. It's not quite summertime here in the UK, so if you guys are watching in a part of the world where the time zone has changed, it's going to be a funny few weeks. Ours changes at the end of this month. And I am looking forward to it because for me, I'd be on summertime all year round. Just give me the extra light in the evenings. I'll deal with the dark mornings, that's for sure. Great comments from Sacred Godslayer saying, hey guys, hi Nick. First of all, loads of thanks to Nick. Thanks, man, I appreciate it. Saying, spent time last week with the screwdriver and the pickups, and it helped to refine the tones how I wanted them. It's a huge thing, right? So if anybody's missed this, last week we did a stream on how you can improve your tone without spending any money. And one of the tips was to spend some time with the screwdriver, getting your pickup heights right. I'm going to give you guys a little extra bonus tip on that right now. But first, I'm going to let a little bit of air into my studio. Just open the door very quickly. There we go. It's getting a bit airless in here. We've got the amps running. So a little bonus tip, right? I'm going to bring you in tight on this lovely Baum guitar that I'm playing. And specifically, I'm going to show you the pickups. Now, hopefully you guys can see this. But if your pickups have adjustable pole pieces, here's an interesting thing you can do with them, right? So what I tend to do is I tend to raise the pole pieces out on the neck pickup and sink them in a bit further on the bridge pickup. What this means, generally speaking, the more difference in height there is between, say, the, oh, we've lost focus there, come on camera, difference in height between the screw pole piece and the slug pole piece. If there's a big difference and you've raised these screw pole pieces out, you'll generally find that there is, I guess, more of a single coily type tone. Let's say more clang and more clarity and high end. Whereas if you sink them in, things tend to get a little bit fatter. Well, what I do is I sink them down to the bridge pickup and then I raise them up a little bit on the neck pickup to give me a little bit more clarity and clang on the neck pickup, a little bit more single coilishness. So hopefully you'll be able to hear this. It's quite subtle, but if we go to the bridge pickup, the bridge pickup is fatter than it would be otherwise. Whereas the neck pickup is more, let's call it more glassy than it would be otherwise. Another little tip, but yeah, I do that on a lot of pickups. I've also done it on my PRS. I've done it on some of the Fishman pickups. Haven't done it on the Maybach because the Maybach has covered in screw pole pieces, but it still sounds great, so I don't feel the need to do that. But yeah, here's an interesting one. So basically, it's all the way down furthest away from the string. Interesting. Some guitar had a boominess and lack of clarity that I couldn't remove with EQ, and now it's gone. Very interesting, especially with high output pickups. This can be really cool, where you really sink the pickup away from the guitar's strings, sink it way down into the body. If the pickups are boomy, that's a great way to get more clarity. But if they're thin, you can do the opposite. You can raise them up. It's a very, very cool little adjustment that not enough people do. He also says it's helped a lot with the technique because he doesn't need to worry so much about unwanted noise from strings catching on the pickups. Of course, that is another factor. So I'm pleased that's working for you, man. Mike Seedorf is in the house. Mike, it is great to see you. Hope everything is okay. Do let us know in the comments, man. We're still thinking about you. So yeah, let us know if everything's all right. We'd love to hear from you. Who else do we have in the house? Kim is here. Franz is here. Helmet Strap is here. Saying, never thought muscle memory would be an issue. Been working on the Steeler. If you know the riff, after pull off goes from C to A. Oh, I know what you mean. I keep going to G because it's like so many classic riffs. Now, disrupting your muscle memory can be a very, very powerful tool here. I'm going to start this up because we'll come back to this. It's very interesting. So it's on the same issue. When soloing, I keep putting triplet flurries in. Need to concentrate on not doing that. Maybe or maybe not. Craig and Tom is in the house. Great to see you. Who else do we have? Very quickly, some more hellos. Block 18 is here. Lil Abner's Clubhouse is tuning in from Ohio. Our friend Tony is in the house from Bournemouth. It's great to see you. James Curtis is in the house. Happy video day, everyone. Happy video day, James. Great to have you on board. Stacey Douglas is here. Who have I missed? I hope I haven't missed anyone. Victor is here. Jada Barter is here. Raphael O'Hafael is here. The A is in Apple. I like it. Dylan Jessup is here. Who else do we have? Let's see now. Let's see. Why does Nick not hit all the tough notes that I seem to include in all of my solos? I just play enough that you don't notice them. Who else do we have? Ergo Hogg is in the house. Tim Hutch is tuning in. Tim, it's great to see you. Rory Callon is here. Lawrence Gaudet is in the house. Lovely to have you on board. Will this work with an LP with humbuckers, referring to the pickup trick? Most certainly will. Works really, really well. Who else do we have? Anybody I've missed? Paul Bradshaw is tuning in. Tall Paul, it's great to have you. Oh, we've got some good news from Mike Seedorf, man. Listen, right, we're still thinking about you. All the best. Here's hoping for a speedy recovery for you and yours, man. I'm glad everything's okay, right? I'm over the moon for you, man. Again, don't know quite what to say, but hey, listen, I'm so happy everything's going to be okay. Now, let's move on with the meat of today's lesson, which is how you can play more musical solos, and it doesn't involve learning more scales. Now, let's talk about that first of all, right? Let's talk about that. So, more knowledge is never a weakness. Let's just say that right now, right? Learning more things will never make you a worse guitar player. I don't think, right? I do not think. However, what we often find is we find players who will say, oh, my solos don't sound musical, I'm stuck in a pentatonic box, right? So maybe if we're playing in D minor, maybe we're stuck in this little box shape here, this first a D minor pentatonic box shape that everyone knows, most of us love. If you don't love, you should. Just keeping an eye on the focus on this camera. I just decided to play silly buggers. I'll set it on manual focus, actually. Bear with me 1 second. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Let's just quickly adjust that. If I can. There we go. Manual focus, much better. Okay, hopefully this is going to stay locked onto the guitar. That is much better. I'm being lazy and using autofocus, and I shouldn't. Anyway, this minor pentatonic shape in particular, what we've got is starting on fret number 10, 10, 13, 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 13, 10, 13, right? And what happens is folks will go, well, I feel like my solos are stuck in this box and they don't sound very musical. Those are two separate problems, right? I'm going to say that right now. Those are two separate problems, and we'll get into why. Because this box is a very musical sounding box. A scale is a musical thing, right? You can play scales in a musical fashion, you can play them in an unmusical fashion, but ultimately the box is not the issue, right? And learning more scales will not fix the issue of sounding not musical enough, let's say, with the tools that you already have. Now, as a way of illustrating this, what I want you to think about is how many great solos you know that are super musical that use predominantly this box. Think about the solo from Another Brick in the Wall, for example. It's all this box, right? I'm not going to play it. It's so musical, right? But it's all in the box. There are lots of solos like this that are just one box and they sound really, really, really great. The box is not your problem, right? The learning new scales, going, okay, I'm going to learn the Dorian mode. Here's my Dorian mode up here. That stuff's fun. Is it going to make you more musical? Not necessarily. Here's a way of demonstrating this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by playing some stuff all up and down the fretboard that is not going to be very musical at all. And then I'll play some stuff contained entirely to this one box that is going to be very musical. And then we'll talk about what's actually going on there. Let's treat ourselves to the high gauge sound with the delay. We'll go with the same backing track because the backing track is fun. It's going to be available on licklibrary.com very soon. Let's do some stuff not very musical, that's in key, but isn't necessarily what we'd call a musical solo. And then we'll do it in one box and make it really musical. I'll try to anyway. Yeah, it's fine. Is it very musical? Nope. Would I keep that as a take on the album? Probably not. Let's go to the box and let's make some music. It sounds musical, hooray! Now, I actually probably would keep that. That was quite a good little pass. I'm like, okay, tidy up some little parts of it, but not bad at all. So what gives, right? What are we actually listening for here? Well, the first thing when it comes to crafting musical solos is that you have to be thinking about what you're playing as music. Now, that sounds like a very nebulous term, right? But oftentimes when we play the guitar, we kind of lose track of the fact that we're playing music, and we start to play athletically, or we start to play exploratively, or we play, let's say we play with a practice mindset. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Practice mindset is important. Practice mindset is where we're exploring the guitar. We're finding our way around the neck. We're looking for new sounds. We're looking for new and interesting places to put our fingers. Music is different. Music is a music mindset or a performance mindset is where we only care about one thing, and it's how cool does the thing I'm playing sound? Is it appropriate? Yes. Good. Is the tone nice? Yes. Good. Are these ideas pleasing? We won't necessarily say interesting. Interesting is something entirely different. But let's say pleasing. Do we like what we're playing? Do I like what I'm hearing? And if we don't start with that subtle mindset difference of let's try playing something that sounds like music, we're off to a non-starter. Let's do this as a brief experiment. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to that minor pentatonic box, and I'm going to start by encouraging you to play a bunch of cool licks and sequences and things that you've been working on, or things that feel good to play, etc. We're not going to worry too much about the music. We're going to worry about the mechanics. And then we're going to turn our attention to trying to play musically. This might not be an immediate success, but it should highlight the difference in mindset and difference in attitude. So grab a guitar if you haven't done so already, right? Let's get stuck in with some jamming. D minor is the key, minor pentatonic box 1 is the limitation. Let's go. I'll start with just running some ideas. So I'll go like this. And already I'm at the box. Right, you can do the same. Just run me some notes up and down in this box, right? Do whatever you want. Don't worry about making music per se. We're just going to play the box and acclimate ourselves with it. Okay, mindset shift. Here I'm going to focus on trying to make this as musical as I can. And this is not the same as slow. You can take the cool part. So give me something musical this time. Focus your attention on trying to play something that you would classify as music. Now, I'm not expecting it to be as easy as this, but this is step number 1. It's the first step on the road. I'll let you go until the chords change. Stay within that box. And then we'll talk about some ideas that are going to foster this musical approach. Okay. Let's wind it down there. Now, coming out of that track for just a second. So you may or may not, right? Let me know if this was a success for you. It probably, I'm willing to bet, was like moderate success. It was like, oh, no, I'm just confused. That's okay, right? That's okay. What do we mean when we say we're in this musical mindset? Well, the first thing that we should be paying our attention to is we should be paying attention to the sounds that we're producing and focusing on the sound of the lines that we're trying to play, as opposed to the physical or mechanical or mathematical aspects of our playing. When we're practicing, it's important to focus on those things, but when we're playing, there should be one thing in our mind, and that thing should be the sound. Now, how do we connect with the sound we're trying to make? Well, the first and most obvious thing we do is we sing what we're playing. And this is where we quote Guthrie Govan again. And I quote Guthrie a lot here, right? The original wise man of the guitar. Stacey Douglas says, really moved for this backing. Is it one of the new ones? It is, in fact, one of the new ones. This is going to be available on licklibrary.com. We got some other ones too coming. Marcin says, I nailed it because there's no recording going on. Hey, sometimes that happens, right? For this backing track, playing the shuffling in the lead phrasing is essential for sure, right? But we'll get to that, right? So that's sort of more of I guess more of an analytical thing. But you're right, it is important. Now, singing what we're playing. What does this mean? Does this mean that we should anticipate what we're about to play and sing it in our mind before we play it, like a chess player, anticipating moves before we make the move? That is not what it means, right? It does not mean that you sit with the track and go, okay, I'm going to play do-do-do-do-do-do, and it becomes do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do. That is not what that means at all, right? What it means instead is it means almost that we should be singing along mentally or out loud as we're playing. It should be simultaneous. We should be singing the lines that we're playing as we're playing it. Now, what this does is it makes us take ownership of the notes that we're choosing, and it forces us to only play things that we can imagine the sound of, only things that we can hear in our mind's ear. The term is to audiate. Things that we can audiate, we can imagine the sound of. Now, this is a very important step, and some of us will do this unintentionally already. Some of us will never have done this and will find it to be a very strange thing. So restricting ourselves to a pentatonic scale is actually a really good place to go with this, because first of all, it restricts us to some very common and easy to sing things. It's not the easiest thing in the world to sing, say, for example, a half-whole diminished scale. It can sound cool, and if you're into that, that's great, but it's a bit weird, right? But the box is good fun, provided we're capable of singing what it is we're playing. Now, my voice is a little bit of a mess today. Normally, I've got a pretty good range. If you sing and you're out of tune with what it is that you're playing, it doesn't really matter, right? It's not about creating a perfect vocal delivery. It's about just having a sense of like, oh yeah, it goes. Let's try that very quickly. What we're going to do is we're going to begin by playing some solos where we don't sing. And then we're going to try and sing what we play as we play it. And that's the crucial thing, is this happens simultaneously. It's not a case of like, oh, you anticipate and you sing and then you play. You do it simultaneously. It has to be at the same time. And it's like the same music is happening with voice and with guitar. It's the same stuff that's coming out. You're just coming out of you in two different media. It's coming out in the guitar, it's coming out in the voice. Now, let's take a listen to the track and let's begin by playing sans singing. So no singing, pentatonic boxes, and let's see what we sound like. Okay, you take a turn. No singing aloud this time. Just play me some stuff. We're not worried about focusing on singing or finding that sound or engaging with these notes. We're just running our fingers. Now, the next thing we'll do when this track changes is we're going to focus our attention on trying to sing the notes we play as we play them. So I'm going to go. Okay, you take a turn, I'm out of breath. It doesn't matter if you get it right. That's not the point. The point is just being aware of what you're playing. Have a little sing as you play. See if you can really embody the notes that you're playing. Now, this doesn't mean you should always sing out loud when you're soloing, or you should do the George Benson trick the whole time, but hey, it really does work. Okay, I'm gonna take another pass. I'm gonna sing what I'm saying. Ready? I'll go like this. Now, that is to show you that you can play complex lines that exist outside of your vocal range. You don't need to be able to hit the note for it to come out, and you can also play fast passages that involve chromatics if you're able to hear it. But the really important thing is being able to hear and like kind of mentally see the line as you're playing it. It's not about anticipating it, it's just about having your ear in the line. So whatever it is you're playing, you're aware of it, you're listening, and you're actively thinking about the music that you're making. You're actively thinking about the notes that you're playing. So here's a good one from PJ saying, I can't play without thinking about it or hearing it. Now, this is an interesting thing, right? I've done a few things before with this where I've tried to practice in an environment where I can't hear. Sometimes backstage at a festival, you don't really get a chance to hear your guitar. It makes me worse. I'll hit the stage, I'm a worse player for having played and not heard. There is a little cycle that goes on here with playing. We play, we hear, and we respond, and this little cyclical thing is really important. It's why you can't improvise on stage if you can't hear what you're playing, if you can't hear your amp, if you can't, it's why I like in-ear monitors a lot, right? Here's a good one from Response Audio. It says, the stuff I play is generally slower when I sing it. Now that's true for me too, and there are times when you can just go, you know what, just go, that sound is fine, right? You don't need to be able to articulate every individual note. That's just the sound of the sound of some shred, the sound of some ascending stuff, and a duration of the ascending stuff. I think I went too high there. That's fine. You don't need to be able to super articulate every note. You just need to know that, oh, well, now I want to go, and that's fine. So anyway, moving on from the singing thing, right? That is tip number one, is to be in a music making mindset and take singing ownership of the things that you're playing. But tip number two is kind of in a similar vein. And tip number two is to really zone in on the articulation and the sound of what it is that you're playing. The articulation in particular. Now, what do we mean by articulation? Well, there are thousands of ways that we can play a note on the guitar, and we are blessed to have an instrument that lets us express and articulate in so many ways. So if we take the example of a piano. Now, I don't want to throw my piano playing brothers and sisters under the bus here. I love piano players, but piano is one step removed from the actual thing that makes the sound. The thing that makes the sound in the piano is the strings inside the piano, but we play the key rises in a fixed path, and the only option we have in terms of expressiveness on the piano is volume. How hard do we hit the key? There are no other ways that we can color this note. We can't apply vibrato. We can't slide into this note. We can't bend this note. We can grace note into it, but ultimately, press button, result happens. This is even more true on sample-based instruments. Let's say you have a MIDI keyboard playing a sample library. Well, unless you have control over endless articulations, you will never be able to express in the same way that you can on a stringed instrument, or like a voice, let's say, or a reed instrument like a saxophone. These instruments, specifically the guitar in particular, allow us to manipulate the way that a note sounds in so many ways. And this is a really important aspect of music that is often overlooked. Music is not just about dots in a line. It's not just about the notes and when they happen. It's about the quality of the notes. Notes can sound wildly, drastically different depending upon the way you articulate them. And we're going to start by articulating one single note, and we'll see if we can make it happen all sorts of different ways. The note we're going to articulate will be F, just for argument's sake. So F is going to be right here. It's going to be fret number 10 on our G string. And let's say, Chris Brown is saying you often have a pitch bend control on a synth. Indeed you do, but the pitch bend only controls the pitch. When I bend on the guitar, it controls the pitch, the tone, the harmonic content, the sustain, so many things. It's not as simple as hitting, somebody mentioned a whammy pedal before. A whammy pedal is more like the pitch bend on a synth. Bending on the guitar is very different because it changes the tension relationship of the string, changes the tone. It also introduces a bowing effect against the guitar's fret. So it sounds different is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, this F note, let's see how many ways that we can colour this F note. I'll treat myself again to the high gain sound, but it may not be the crazy high gain sound. Maybe we'll stick with, maybe this one actually. That's a good one. Nice. Let's see how many ways I can flavour this F note, right? Okay. I'll play this. Common Garden F. Pop the F. Brush the F. Slide into the F. Slide into the F from above. Give the F a bit of a pinched harmonic. Give the F a little less of a pinched harmonic. I think we need a bit more gain for this. Give the F a bend. Give the F some vibrato. Give the F some faster vibrato. Give the F some slower vibrato. Slide off the F. Slide off the F downwards. Do the Chris Buck thing on the F. Do the reverse Chris Buck thing. You get the picture. There are so many ways that we can colour this F. Give the F a drink. Absolutely, right? The F has worked hard for us, right? Get the F out. For anybody who remembers 90s wrestling. Anyway, so lots of ways that we can colour an F. And there are so many things that we can do with our playing to make an otherwise not super musical idea exceptionally musical. In fact, I would probably argue that most ideas are unmusical. The reverse Chris Buck. Yeah, for sure. Beg pardon? You know exactly what I mean, though. You know exactly what I mean. The reverse Chris Buck. Oh dear. Readers' Housewives. Anyway, what was I saying? Totally distracted. Yes, I would probably argue that most ideas are unmusical until you articulate them with a musical mindset, you articulate them with music as the goal. So let's say, for example, we take a very simple musical idea. Let's say, we'll just conjure one now. Let's say we're going to play this. Let's play. Very simple line. We're going to play 13-10, 12-10, that's B string, G string. And then 12-10-12 on the D string. Let's put it along with the track. It shouldn't be very, very hard to play. It should be quite simple. It's typical box stuff. We go like this. Let's go again. Oh, sorry. Again. Oh, yawn. Not a very musical idea. Okay, let's add in some simple elements to make this more musical. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to play with our picking dynamics. We're going to start by making some notes louder, some notes softer. Now we have distortion on, they won't actually come out any louder or softer, but the tone will change. How did I get it? Well, I got it by doing some legato. A little pull off from 13 to 10. Another little pull off. So I'm sounding all of my lower notes with a pull off. Let's throw a little bit of a bend on this F note. It's back to the F again. Let's put a little slide going into the C up here, this 13th fret note. Let's do a slide downwards, going from 13 to 12 on our G string. So much better. And of course vibrato in the end. What if we maybe add a little bit of a pick squeal on the last note? Give it a bit of honk. Nice, okay. Huge differences already just by adding some articulation. I'll quickly remind you what went on there. Took this, added a little slide, a little pull off, a little downward slide, another pull off with a bend. Here I'm using pull offs as a way of getting quieter notes, notes that don't have the click of a pick. You could just easily play it with some quieter notes. Same thing applies. It's about using the picking dynamics, or lack thereof, our playing dynamics to create texture and colour within this line. The choice of notes is not what's important here. The choice of notes is secondary to the musical expressiveness of the way we're playing said notes, and this is a huge deal. Another thing we can do is we can play with note duration. How long are the notes? So let's take this note here. Do I want this to be joined up? Do I want it to go? Where it's barely a note at all. Just the faintest hint of a note. Very different feels. If we make these notes short, if we make it long, you get the idea. Now, let's throw a little bit of this on the track. Same thing. This time I'm going to play with note duration. Let's invert the dynamics. You get the gist. There's another fun little trick. What about if we take these notes and we approach them with a bend? Instead of playing this, bending from a semitone below. Starting to sound like a slide guitar player. You get the gist, right? It's less about the notes you play and more about how you play them. This is something that all these, you know, when I was growing up, all these older guitar players would say to me, and I had the fortune of growing up in a city where the guitar was played a lot, mostly by really, really skilled hobbyists, which is a fabulous environment to grow up in. Let me tell you, in every pub, on every street corner, there was some guitar player who was better than whoever was on the cover of said guitar magazine, whatever the current publication guitar magazine was on the shelves of W.H. Smith at the time. It was crazy. And these guys would all talk about this thing. They wouldn't be able to articulate what they were saying or what they meant in theory terms or any of that stuff. They would go, well, it's not about the notes you play, it's about how you play them. And I always thought that was such a cop-out. I'm like, what a terrible answer, right? That can't be what it is. But turns out this is what they meant. It's less about looking for new notes to make you more interesting, but it's more about taking notes that you already know and going, okay, am I really ringing the most music out of these notes? Or let's say, am I making these notes do what I want them to in the fullest way before I go looking for other notes? Chris Brown does a semitone bend followed by a forwards Chris Buck. Anybody's wondering what the Chris Buck thing is, right? I've talked about this before. The Chris Buck thing, in case you're wondering, right? I tried to distill this in the same way that Greg Koch tried to distill the Derek Trucks slide fretting thing, because Chris does this fabulous sound and I could never quite suss what it was, because it is in essence a little slide up from a note and then back down again. But I don't think Chris ever goes all the way into the next note. I think he just goes far enough over the fret to disrupt whatever note that he's playing. It sounds like a singer doing a little flip in the voice that you'll hear. You hear great soul singers do this. Now, what it might sound like is like this. Now, I'm no Chris Buck. I can't play the way he plays. But it's that little thing. That's the forward Chris Buck. That would be the reverse Chris Buck. But a semitone bend. Followed by the reverse Chris Buck. It's such an expressive thing to do, right? It's really, really nice. The expressiveness will make huge differences in your ability to play more musical solos. But let's talk about one other aspect, which is something for the faster stuff. Because thus far, all we've really done is we talked about the slower stuff, but the faster stuff is of value too. And this is where things get interesting, because when we play fast stuff, for it to sound musical, we don't always have to have it sound musical. Sometimes it can just sound flashy and impressive and exciting and like, oh my God, what the hell is that, right? But for it to sound super musical, one of the best things we can do is embrace repetition. Now, this is true for everything that we play, but it's especially true for the quick stuff, because when things get fast, we can't really recognize individual notes, as you probably would have sussed from that singing example that we did earlier on. But what we can recognize is patterns and sequences. I want you to think about your favorite fast solo now, right? Have a think about a solo that is really quick. It could be anything. It could be a Paul Gilbert solo. It could be a Malmsteen lick, let's say Far Beyond the Sun. We probably couldn't sing all the individual notes in Far Beyond the Sun. Let's say we took this lick here that I'm now going to butcher because it's on camera. Yeah, told you. Oh, yeah. Let me get my harmonic minor chop styled. There it is. Where's it go from there? Something like that. Yeah. Where's it go? I've forgotten the thing now. Something like that, right? Whatever it is. Now that sequence, we can't really recognize individual notes in there. But we can definitely recognize, if I could play it a little better, we could definitely recognize a pattern. Where it's got this little turn at the start, another little turn in the middle, so it's like, we can recognize that, and that shape we can recognize as a pattern, as something that is a musical device, and something that we can kind of, I guess we can kind of like lay our musical ear upon as a listener. Now, if we start to embrace this in our faster playing with, let's say, for example, with this blues track, let's say we're going to do some pentatonic stuff, what I might do is I might go looking for a particular pattern idea, and I might try and repeat that pattern, not necessarily identically, but try and keep some kind of cyclical flow about what I'm playing as a way of giving the listener something they can recognize. So a favorite of mine is this business. Now I'll show you that lick in a second. But there's a very obvious flow to that. I might play again. Again, there's a flow to that. I'll behave. Why did I think it was an E for some reason? Now, all of these licks may just sound like some fast, because they kinda are, right? It's just an amount of fast stuff. But what's going on in each one of these is I'm trying to have some shape to each individual part of the lick and have the shape repeat. So let me show you this one, for example. This is one of my favorite ones. Chris Brown says, I once heard Paul Gilbert described as catchy shred. Such a good way of describing it, right? Really, really great. Now, Paul's got an interesting observation on this that I'll talk to you about in a second. But the lick in question, the first lick we're playing here, one of my favorites right now, is I'm playing this idea where I'll play, in this case, 13, 15, 13, 15, 16, 17. That's flat 7 root, flat 3rd, 4th, flat 5, 5. And then the same thing in the next octave. And the shape is what gives it form. That's what makes it something. Makes it something that is, I guess, easier to hear than just some formless noodle. Now, the same is true with some of these tapping ideas. So what I'll be looking for here is I'll be looking for some kind of shape, and it may be just the double tap there. That little whatever it is, that can be enough. To give a lick some shape. And give a lick something that the listener can hear, something they can like kind of hang their ear on. So when you're playing the faster stuff, shape makes a huge difference. And by shape, I don't mean playing shapes, but I mean the line having some kind of repeating block shape that moves around and that the listener has like touch points on. They go, oh, I recognize that. Oh, I recognize that. Even if it's surrounded by just like a mass of notes. Another one from Paul Gilbert. He's a really good one because Chris Brown has brought this up. Rhythmic accuracy with shred is a huge deal if you want it to be very musical. So we're playing fast stuff, having some kind of rhythmic pulse, very identifiable, instead of just a blast of notes, can make things easier to identify. Let me show you the difference. I'll show you what I mean. I'll try and play some stuff just really, really quick. The shred chops are not with me today, but that's fine. That's okay. I left them at home. But anyway, I might play something like this. Bailed out on the top there. A little moment in the middle. It was cool, but it wasn't super musical. If I just take a second and take this lick, if I don't fall off the fretboard and make it have a rhythmic flow to it, already that sounds more musical. Again. I'm gonna mess it there. Now that's something you can sing. Here is even if you're not singing the individual notes, we can sing the shape of it, and that's a way of making even silly licks like that are just flashy nonsense sound like more of a musical idea. Now that's not to say you should always play like this, but it's a fun thing to incorporate. Folks, that's been some ideas on how you can play more musical sounding solos. We're going to go to the Q&A because you have questions and I have answers, or hopefully at least. If you've got more questions, drop them down in the comments. I would love to hear from you, but I want to address this one. This is one from our friend Helmet Strap saying, I keep putting triplet flurries in my solos. I need to concentrate in order to not do this. I guess the question, right? I guess this is asking the question of when does something stop being a habit and start being a style? Because there are lots of guitar players who just have things that they do that are part of their style. It's a visible or audible or clear style thing that they do, and the triplet flurry might be something stylistic to you. That's not to say you should do it all the time. Not every guitar player who has a very obvious style busts out the elements of that style every single note that they play. But it might not be a bad thing, I wouldn't say. Maybe, you know, the triplet flurries thing is cool. I guess being aware of what you're playing and being mindful about the types of lines, that may help with this, I think, potentially. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily worry so much about it. Triple flurries might be cool. I guess just be conscious and take ownership of when you're delivering said triplet flurries. Timothy Appling says, righteous. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Hey, after the mess I made of that Malmsteen stuff, I had to redeem myself somehow, didn't I? Marcin is saying, which Fishmans would you put into the Baum guitar? Well, first of all, I don't think I would. I don't think I would because well, here's a couple of reasons. First of all, I bought this guitar because it has mini humbuckers, and I didn't have a guitar with mini humbuckers, and that was kind of it. That's a lie. I have an Aria guitar kicking around here with mini hums, but this guitar is strung with a very unusual tuning. So I don't have a guitar that I would play in standard tuning that I play regularly with mini humbuckers. And mini humbuckers sound cool, but I beg pardon. Sorry. Excuse me one second. Oh, this cough. I wish it would go. But here's the thing. Mini humbuckers are the same size of routing as a P90. So the only option I would have without carving this guitar up and cutting out bigger I guess bigger like routes for this, like humbucker sized holes. The only option I would have would be to put P90s in, which Fishman make. The reason I wouldn't put Fishman's in this guitar is I already have the Greg Cox signature P90s in one of my PRS over here. So unless I was going to do a swap and put the mini homes in the PRS, I probably wouldn't. But I will grab the PRS for you and show you what they do. So let's go. Let's go leaning over. So this is my McCarthy soap bar. This is a real favourite of mine. Love this guitar to death. And these Greg Koch Fluence P90s, they absolutely friggin' rock. The Gristle King, of course, he knows a thing or two about pickups. You can see the size difference between these two guitars as well when I play this one, because this one you can actually see everything on screen. Let me just take a second and tune the thing. Bear with me a minute. But it's a cool guitar. I like this a lot. And this has, like I say, the Gristle King P90s. I gather, a little birdie has told me there's another set of Fluence P90s coming. But at the minute, there's only one. Really beautiful sounding guitar. Lots of different voices. Becomes really apparent with distortion. So if I was putting any set in the bottom, it would be this one. I think, any Fluence set, because it's the only one that'll fit, but also I do really like them. So a good question, my man, a very good question. Okay, here's one from Binary Surf saying, could you please really slow down one of those faster runs you did, Nick? Happy to, no problem. Let me show you the silly D minor pentatonic one that we had. That was this guy. Let's see if I can play it on this guitar. I'm sure I can, because this guitar is nice. This delay. Yeah, really silly line. We'll play that one because that's really good fun. So the lick in question, clean sound so we can hear it. We'll go like this. We're in D minor, so I'm starting on the third, which is F, and I'm going to play F. We'll call it fret numbers. We'll do 1, 3, and 5 on the low string, followed by 3, 5, 8 on the highest, sorry, the next string, which is the A string. Now, this is where the lick kind of begins its pattern at the top of this little sequence. What I'll do next is I'll pull off to 5 and 3, and then with my middle finger and index finger, I'll play 5, 3, 5, and back to the top. So we get this. From here, I'll skip up to 5, 7, 10, pull off back down. Third finger goes on 8, 5, 8. So that's the highest two notes of the previous string, basically. 3 notes in this string, highest 2 notes of the previous string. Then we go to 7, 10, 12, pull off back down, highest 2 notes of the previous string, which were 10 and 7. Moving up to 10, 15, 13. Highest 2 notes of the previous string, which are 12 and 10. Then up top, 13, 15, 17, pull off back down, highest 2 notes of the previous string, tap on 20, bend up to 22. Should read something like this. You know what it is? I didn't even do the highest notes on the previous string on the top bit, but that's okay. That's the one. I think I'm actually doing something silly on the low string. Yeah, I'm using my pinky finger on the low string for some reason. put it on the track with some delay. That's the lick, give or take. Subject to change. Let's get that again. And on we go. Feeling this guitar. This guitar is a lot of fun. It's not the easiest to play in the world, but hey, it's a lot of fun. It's got some coated strings on. What have I put on here? Oh, D'Addario XS strings. I can tell it's coated. Not a huge fan of coated strings. These are some of my favorites, but I'm definitely more of an XT or NYXL guy. I don't get on with the slippy coaty thing, so I'll probably change these eventually, but they'll almost never, like, they'll be on for years before they go off, so maybe this guitar is doomed to have coated strings because these strings last forever. Do like me some D'Addario strings. But yeah, I'm definitely more about the less coated versions. So the XT is very cool. NYXLs are on most of my guitars because I can build custom sets, which is nice. In case anybody's wondering, by the way, the current custom set is as follows. This is a lot of fun. So from lowest to highest, we've got 46, 34, 25, right? 46, 34, 25, 17, 13, 9.5. Very nerdy. It's basically a balanced tension tens set, but with half a gauge down on the highest two strings for more bendiness. This guitar is just straight tens, which is fine. Quite happy. Give me tens, I'm a happy boy. But that more balanced set, I think there's something to it, personally. Anyway, I'm going to play you guys out on this one, folks. Thanks so much for having me. My name's Nick Jennison. It is the Monday Guitar Show. We do this every Monday. Don't forget, we've got a free course, 5-minute guitar fixes, available at the link down below. If you're not a Lick Library member, don't worry, you can still have the course. But if you are a Lick Library member, you get the course and so many others. Also, don't forget to check out the current edition of Guitar Interactive magazine, where we have interviews with Steve Vai, Eric Johnson, Joe Satriani, the OG G3, killer stuff, right? I've been watching them. Love them to death, right? I've said this for the longest time. Jonathan Graham is the best interview in the business. In case anybody wants proof of this, go and read the interview that Kerrang! Magazine recently did with Zach Wilde. It is pants. Sorry, Kerrang!, it sucks. But our interview with Zach is coming out soon. It will not be pants. In the meantime, folks, thank you so much for having us. We do this every Monday. We're back with another one of these instant guitar fixes next week. I won't tell you what it is, but it's another good one. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to play out on this track. In fact, I think I'll play out on the equivalent track that we've made in G, but also on this guitar. Same groove, similar chords. I think the same chords. Who knows? But in G. I'll see you guys next week. Oh, this one's good fun. I like this one.